food lovers, and welcome to Cooking 100-Year-Old Recipes. In this video, I'm making a crowd favorite, corn fritters. First, I'm going to chop up the corn in my little mini food processor that I use in almost every video because it's so handy. This will take some of the texture out of the corn and help it assimilate into this, I'd say, a different kind of a fritter batter than I've made in my life. The recipe calls for canned corn, but I'm using frozen. A can of corn is 1.5 cups, just if you want to use fresh or frozen instead. Then I'm going to separate an egg. I'm making half the recipe because I don't have enough people to eat all of this today. The recipe calls for 2 eggs, but this, you can double it or cut it in half just fine. And then I will put the whisk attachment onto that same stick blender and beat the egg white or whites into very stiff peaks. And a good way to tell that it's stiff enough is when you turn over your bowl, or in this instance the cup, and nothing moves. And it takes 2 to 3 minutes. Make sure there's no fat at all whatsoever in whatever you're mixing in, and there's not even a drop of the yolk in there or it won't whip. And you can tell already this is going to be a lightened batter, and the corn being chopped up helps it suspend better. So into my mixing bowl, I am going to put the corn first. Get every little bit out of there with the spatula. And then the recipe says to sift in the dry ingredients, and that helps them combine more completely because all of it's a very fine powder. So we've got the flour first. I'll measure that out. We have the right proportion of flour to corn. Then the baking powder for some lift. A little bit of salt. And just about a dash of paprika. And just work it through. And now I'll work it as best I can into the chopped up corn mixture. And in case I was talking over it earlier, the oil should be preheating. And I'm adding the egg yolk. And I'll work that in really well. And I generally fry everything on medium heat. I don't go over about a 5 when I'm using a an oil frying method, not a pan frying method, but oil where there's at least an inch of oil in the pot or pan. Now I'm going to lighten this mixture with about 1/3 of the egg whites. The recipe doesn't say that, but I just know from experience this is best practice. I'm not quite using the cut and fold method yet. I'm just trying to get it to lighten up this very dense base. And then once that's distributed, I will put in the remaining whipped up egg white. And then I'll be a little bit more gentle with this. So I do use the cut and fold method where you cut down the middle and then bring it up from the bottom. But you'll also see me wiggling at the base. That's my own technique. So the combination of those two methods work really well in my experience. So you just want to get the egg whites evenly distributed so there's no egg white pocket in the fritters, any of them. You bite into one and there's a big white section. We don't want that. I mean, of course, it's no crime, but that's not the goal of this. And now I'll put it into my preheated oil. And I'm making somewhat small ones because I know they're going to puff up from the baking powder. And I find they take about 2 minutes on each side. And if you've watched before, you know I like to do it in a saucepan so that I minimize how much oil I'm using. I use the old donut method with chopsticks to flip over these little fritters. Well, they're not that little, but you know what I'm saying. Look how beautiful. Golden and crispy, and they won't be greasy at all because the oil is the right temperature. I will take them out and drain them on paper towels. I'm going to just finish up cooking the rest of the batter and I'll show you how I serve it. I'm going to lay them into a plate bowl. I love this style of dinnerware. And I prefer them with icing sugar on them. Some people like syrup, some people like them just natural. Some people like to put green onions, but I like them like this, like beignets. And they are light, fluffy, and very tasty. It's a simple recipe, and with the right technique, you will get the same results.